It all starts in the city of Taipei, Taiwan. Charles is baking a cake in his apartment while three masked men break into his home. Charles takes them all on and fights them into the living room. He takes them all down and even follows one wounded man upstairs. His cake is getting burnt, so he has to run down to get it out of the oven, but it's ruined, along with his apartment. Two people are there now to clean up the mess Charles made. It's Blood Boots and Xing. She tells him she killed someone just a couple of weeks ago on the docks, and he's now upset that no one calls him for that sort of stuff, only to clean up after things go down. Charles tells them to get the cleaning done early until someone important shows up. That someone is Big Son, Charles's dad, who was supposed to be in hiding, but came because he was worried about his son. Big Son is confused why they only sent 3 people because Charles has such a reputation. And with all the better places for them to do this, he tells Charles that he should have kept one alive for questioning. Charles thinks it's Sleepy Chen who sent the goons as revenge for the man Xing killed. Big Son tells Charles to always consider the most complicated option and work down to the least. But when he turned around, a sniper had taken a shot through the window and hit Big Son. As Charles was holding his father, in his dying breath, he said the name Xiao Han, Charles's mother. Yuan is managing the business when Charles comes in and asks about his father. It turns out Big Son isn't dead, but he's in a coma in the hospital. Charles wants to hunt down Sleepy Chen and his son, but Yuan calms him down because they don't know exactly who is behind all of this. Yuan exclaims that Charles must go and find his mother because protecting family is the most important thing. As told to him by his father, he might even have help from his brother Bruce. But Yuan is skeptical about that. Across the world in Los Angeles, Bruce is admiring a sports car when 2 women get in his CAS because he is a Lyft driver. Bruce heads home and takes his shoes off before walking in. He's hungry and gets himself some food and eats on the table. As he fell on his bed, it's daytime and he has to wake up again. He eats his breakfast while his mom asked him what he was doing last night, and he promised her he wasn't doing the other thing. She's proud of him and tells him to text her when he gets to school. Bruce is in class taking a test. He's bored, so he gets up to give the test back, even with 20 minutes left. At the admissions desk, he asks for an extension, but all Janet wants is for him to pay his tuition. He tries to give her all his money, but she wants the full amount. He tries to revolt with the students, but hilariously fails. Bruce goes to see his drug dealer friend TK. Bruce asks for $5,000, and that freaks out TK. His mom was paying for it, but Bruce used the money for the other thing. TK is upset because Bruce has told everyone he's stopped with that. But that's when Bruce tells him it's the best improv comedy class in the city. That's right. He spent $5,000 on improv classes. That's when TK offers him a job dealing drugs. Bruce is not open to it, but he accepts because he needs the money. Charles lands in LA, and the flight attendant texts someone of his arrival. He gets some donuts and heads over to his family's house. When no one answers the door, Charles sneaks around the back and makes his way inside. He's surprised by another masked killer who almost got the upper hand on him, but Charles manages to win. But this time, he's going to question the assassin, but he gets nothing out of it, apart from a phrase, "The riddance of evil must be thorough." When Eileen walked in, she sees the dead assassin, and then Charles. He tells her about the donuts, and she tells him his beard looks terrible and complains about the mess. He tells her about Big Son and that they should cash in the insurance policy because he thinks he's in charge now, but she tells him to wait. So he's going to a club to find local guys to protect his family. At the club, Bruce and TK are there to sell drugs. Bruce is still not ready to do this. Bruce meets May and her gang, and she scares him to be careful. That's when Charles also walks into the same club, and they run into each other on the dance floor. And when Charles tries to take him away, the gang got in the way and tased Charles. Charles wakes up in front of May and her gang, and he's not pleased at all. He tells them who he is, and that gets the gang a bit scared. May is very excited about meeting such a legend. They try to beat him up, and he accepts it to keep his brother alive. A group of people on small motorcycles are on their way. May's gang keep beating up Charles, but he's had enough and fights back, taking them all down. Even May tries to get in on the action. She gets to Bruce, and just before she kills him, the motorcycle people blew up the wall and shot May as she got up, saying the riddance of evil must be thorough. Bruce got up and took his brother out through the wall. TK comes with a car and they escape. They get home to find Eileen getting rid of the body. Early in the morning, Bruce wakes up and finds Charles preparing the dead body for disposal. Bruce has no idea what's going on and what his family is involved in. That's when TK barged in with breakfast, and when Charles tried the churro, the baker in him absolutely loved it. Eileen is getting herself ready, and when she walks out, Bruce asks so many questions. She tells Charles to dispose of the body because Bruce is not built for this life, and he has a test later. Charles tries to explain why he should go and find the killer because he's the leader of the gang now, and she should do as he says. But she tells him she's not a member of their gang, she's his mother, and to drop off Bruce at school. In the car, Bruce can't convince Charles to take him to school, but Charles wants his help before that. Bruce also wants to protect the family, but as a doctor, they get to the spot, and Bruce is scared, but drags the suitcase up and into the animal sanctuary. Then he comes out with an animal. They're supposed to deliver it somewhere else. But Charles doesn't want to do that, so he goes inside and beats up the guy, but their family is bound by honor. He also tells Charles that the person they'll deliver to, called the Spider, might have information on the person they're looking for. As soon as Charles left, the man calls someone to tell them Charles was just there and where he's going. Outside, Charles tells Bruce that honor and tradition are important to keep order. Lawyer Alexis and Detective Mark are investigating the explosion at the club. They argue about working together and spot a security camera. TK is playing a game when he hears his door banging. It's the police. Eileen walks into a restaurant's kitchen and into the back room where there's a game of mahjong going on, the hair salon, then the dry cleaners looking for information. Bruce and Charles are in the car talking about their little time together as children. Charles tells him about the Jade Dragon Society, part of the Triad, and that their dad built it to the way it is today. He tells Bruce that it's in his blood to be part of the gang. They get to the house, and it's a fancy house with some kind of birthday party happening with a dinosaur theme. Charles walks inside looking for the man. He sees Spider. Meanwhile, outside, Bruce sees the dressed-up people in costumes holding weapons, so he gets out to warn Charles. The guys walk in killing a guard and holding a machine gun. Charles confronts Spider and asks him about who the person was that attacked him, and this scares Spider. Even Charles, giving him the protection of the Jade Dragons, isn't persuading him because he thinks they can't protect him from these guys. Bruce is at the window shouting, but they can't hear him, so he tries miming about dinosaur-costumed men coming to kill them. That's when the gang attacks him. Charles fights them off, but one of them manages to kill Spider. Charles throws one out the window, and they run off with Bruce as they fight off other goons along the way. They kill most of them and run out the door to the car. In the car, Bruce is too stressed out by all of this and wants to get to school for his test. But Charles has figured out that he doesn't even want to be a doctor, he wants to be an actor. Until Eileen calls and tells him to stop worrying about the body and do as she tells him. Then she calls Bruce, who threatens Charles to tell her about not taking Bruce to school. So Charles caves and speeds up to take him to class. So Bruce tells his mom he's in class. TK is in an interrogation room when Alexis walks in and asks him about Bruce and Charles getting into his car after the explosion. In the college parking lot, Charles finds out about how smart Bruce is. He even has a photographic memory. Then he walks out to take his test when a girl sits next to him, and they talk for a bit. She's Grace and Bruce likes her. The test begins as Charles waits in the car and sees churros. Naturally, he goes to find one, but he can't leave the head with the animal, so he takes it. He gets the churro, and that's when Billy, the campus security guy, sees the blood on Charles' jacket. The cops also show up looking for Bruce, and Mark wants churros along the way. Billy approaches Charles, but he pushes him away right when Mark shows up, so Charles pretends not to know English. Alexis shows up on the scene and she knows Charles, but the look in her eyes says there is more. Mark asks what's in the bag and Charles doesn't want to show him. Bruce sees this from the window as Alexis tries to calm everyone down, but the animal has escaped and everyone's attention goes to it. And just like that, Charles is gone. Bruce takes off with Charles in the car. In the house, Eileen scolds Charles and tells Bruce to go to bed. Charles still thinks his mom isn't doing the right thing until she tells him she found out the name of the man who came to kill them. She figured it out using his shoes. Charles notices the red string on the dead man, the same thing his dad recognized at the apartment, till he hears a knock on the door. It's Alexis. She tells him she found him on a security camera. She asks him about his dad and who he's here, but he lies to her. She puts her number in his phone and walks away. Bruce walks into his mom's room and they talk about the real past of the family. She tells him that they lied to him and moved to America to keep him safe and away from the crime. The next day in school, Bruce meets Grace again in class. He tells her about his improv, and she loves it and wants to see him perform. They get the test, and as he was about to start it, he sees a dangerous-looking woman staring at him through the window, so he gets up and walks out. But there she is in the hallway.